Well, hello, folks. We continue our Pastor's Bible Study series looking at the fruits of the Spirit, Galatians 5:22-23, love, joy, peace, patience, kindness, generosity, faithfulness, gentleness, and self-control. These, of course, are values of God. These are characteristics of God. These were lived out by Jesus. Paul takes that, and Paul sort of is trying to give his followers, the churches that he started, an idea of what the Christian life looks like. And Paul says these are the things, not just to aspire to, these are the things that ought to be produced out of our lives. And so I thought it would be helpful. Let us go and look at a story of Jesus producing these things in his own life. That might give us a sense of what it could look like. So today we're on generosity, and we're in the Gospel of Luke, Luke chapter 6, verse 27, Luke chapter 6, verse 27, generosity. Jesus is talking here. But I say to you that listen, love your enemies, do good to those who hate you, bless those who curse you, pray for those who abuse you. If anyone strikes you on the cheek, offer the other one also, and from anyone who takes away your coat, do not withhold even your shirt. Give to everyone who begs from you, and if anyone takes away your goods, do not ask for them again. Do to others as you would have them do to you. If you love those who love you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners love those who love them. If you do good to those who do good to you, what credit is that to you? For even sinners do the same. If you lend to those from whom you hope to receive, what credit is that to you? Even sinners lend to sinners to receive as much again. But love your enemies, do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. Your reward will be great, and you will be children of the Most High. For he is kind to the ungrateful and the wicked, but merciful just as your Father. Be merciful just as your Father is merciful. Now, there's lots of places actually in the Bible where we could have talked about Jesus' generosity. I mean, all the stories of feeding 4,000, 5,000 people, the turning the water into wine, and being generous with that, wedding parties, so many places where we could talk about generosity. But I wanted to focus on this one in particular because of this line where he says, love your enemies, do good, and lend, expecting nothing in return. Honestly, we can be generous with the people in return who have been generous to us. We can be generous. We can find ourselves generous with people who are easy to be generous with, or who are close to us, or we care deeply about. But that's not what Jesus is talking about. Those are the places where generosity comes easy and natural. But our life of faith is one in which we are to perfect these skills, to hone these skills so that generosity is not a response to someone else's generosity. Generosity is not given when it is easy to give, but that generosity is the natural response that we have in every circumstance. And so he says, amidst this passage of loving your enemies and when people ask you for a coat, give all your clothes and all of this, he talks about generosity. So I wonder if you might spend a couple minutes today thinking about who has been generous with you, and then think a little bit deeper, who has been generous with you that didn't really need to be. There wasn't really a reason for them to do that. They didn't have a compelling relationship with you. They were just generous because that was at the root of who they are. That's who we want to be like. That's the way Jesus was. Multiple times you have leaders from the opposition who come to him asking him to bring healing to their children, and he does. Generous. Where are the places where you might be able to practice generosity in your life? I imagine there's some that are pretty easy. What about thinking about the hard ones today? the places where generosity doesn't come natural. And we need to learn and hone and perfect that skill. Because that's truly what, if our lives are supposed to point to God, that's truly what would be surprising. You know, there's stories in ancient Christian history, 100, 200, 300 years after Jesus' death, that historians, non-Christians, are writing that they call Christians these peculiar people. Because around the Roman Empire, there was disease, just like coronavirus, that was taking over in different places. And they didn't understand the science behind it all and how to keep people from getting sick. All they knew is that these people are sick, and if you're around them, there's a great chance that you're going to get sick. And so entire villages would die. And as disease would sort of move its way through a village, what often would happen is that anyone who was healthy that would desert that village. And Roman historians began noticing and writing that Christians, when the villages were deserted, when people had deserted their sick loved ones, Christians would move in. And they would feed the people, and they would hydrate the people, and, you know, I mean, sometimes that's what it takes to keep someone alive, is a little extra care and nurture. It didn't have to be a miracle cure, just helping them through that virus. And Christian historians remarked these historians remarked at how peculiar these Christian people were, that for no reason that they could find, only their love of God, only their belief that all are children of God, they would move into these villages, and some Christians would lose their lives because they would catch the virus. But oftentimes many people lived who were counted as dead already. And it was a point that many people found compelling about Christians, that they were willing to be this generous with these people who didn't deserve it, who didn't earn it. And of course the Christians would say, well, this is how God is with us. Generous with love and generous with grace, and we didn't earn it. We're sinners like everyone else. We didn't earn it, but God is generous with it. And so we have no choice, if we're going to live godly lives, than to be generous with others. Not because they earned it, not because we already love them, because they were in need and we had something to give. Who's in need, and what do you have to give? And how can you practice generosity in a powerful way that changes someone's life, that changes the world today? God bless.